You see Grace Tionco, our beloved fellow member who was on stage to assist me. Next one, please. Okay. I wonder why these two gentlemen, past presidents, uh, chose this lovely violinist for their picture. I think you can see why. She was a very good violinist at the concert. Next one, please. Here, you'll be proud to know that the CSR of FINEX included inviting indigent music students from the Sisters of Mary Boys Town and Girls Town. So these are girls students. The next one, you will see the boys music students. All of them attended the concert, and we wanted them to be exposed to this kind of music so that they will be inspired to become good musicians. And this is to the credit of Phoenix. Uh, Next one, please. Next slide. Okay, I guess that's all we have now. Uh, Lastly, I would like to say that there will be a raffle with a major prize consisting of a Samsung 55-inch TV set that is only for exclusively for Phoenix members. But then you have to register by 6 o'clock this afternoon, sign in at 7 o'clock, and stay for the concert and be there during the raffle. Okay, so see you all tonight. Bring out the popcorn. You will surely enjoy this with your family. We assure you. Thanks a lot, Benny.
Thank you, Eddie. Thank you very much. And of course, we all look forward to seeing you tonight in tonight's concert. So let's go down. Let's get on with the show. Adjust, cope, adapt are now common buzzwords as we experience this new normal, also known as this new reality. We definitely don't have a choice but to face head on the uncertainties that surround us. I'm sure you have many questions as to how all these will play out. This afternoon's sessions will hopefully enlighten you and give you an additional perspective on how to strategize, plan, think, and eventually reinvent yourselves. You, the students and young professionals, will definitely need to reinvent yourselves as you pursue your careers, whether it be in finance, business, marketing, technology, or even in the medical field. As we all know, schools teach us to learn how to learn. This pandemic pushes us to relearn how to learn. For the first part of today's session, we have two distinguished JFINEX finance superstars who will share with us their innermost thoughts and insights, which will hopefully enlighten all of you. Our first speaker, Mr. Vic Sarsa, was once in his past life a Undersecretary of Finance and was instrumental in the reprivatization process of Maynilad Water. He also held various key roles in the successful privatization of the Iloilo Airport, the International School, Manila, the Philippine Telecommunications Investment Corporation. Vic is currently COO of Mabuhay Capital Corporation, President of Central Negros Power Reliability Corporation, and Independent Director of Vitarich Corp. But most importantly, he was also once the chair of this very prestigious JFINEX committee. Our second speaker, Mr. Ned Goseco, was once a fighter pilot by training and also in his past life. A product of the Philippine Air Force, He spent many of his professional years with the Aliala group of companies, honing in his financial and analytical skills in various capacities with different companies such as IMI, AC Energy, and AC Infrastructure. He currently sits on the board of various companies, including the 100-year-old Guagua National Colleges. Ladies and gentlemen, the enigma permeates in the air today, and we can all breathe it. Let's start off with Mr. Vic Sarsa. Vic,
Thank you, Benny. A warm welcome to everyone. Good afternoon. I understand there are a lot of students participating in this webinar. It's always heartwarming to be introduced by a friend and a colleague. Benny and I have known each other for many years now. My screen is there. Let me check now. All right, let me test it. This is the issue of technology. Okay. Let's start off. Taking a look at this, you see a mouthful of a statement here. Certainty in an increasingly uncertain world. And then giving our future finance leaders the tools to solve the enigma. Looking at this, you'll say it's an oxymoron. How can two completely different and completely opposite things exist in one statement, in one sentence? Certainty, uncertainty, and to make matters worse, enigma. Let's take a look. What I'm here to do, what Ned and I are here to do, is to share our experiences for the past several decades and let you know how we addressed those issues that confronted us at those times. As we go along, you'll notice that, and you'll see the kind of uncertainties we faced, the kind of challenges we faced, and I'll share with you, and Ned will do the same, on how we took a look at that, took a look at those challenges, and resolved the issues that were in front of us. All right, it's still not moving. Let me try this. Okay. The demanding rigidity of finance. Finance has always been a rigid discipline, no matter how you look at it. Everyone who's been in finance, whether you're a student or a practitioner, will know this statement. It is a discipline that demands exact computations, exact numbers. Take a look at this, the examples here. For accountants, left must equal right. It's as simple as that. For bankers, loans, the borrowers must be able to pay the loans that they borrowed. For the depositors that gave you their hard-earned peso, you must be able to give that back whenever they demand it. Finance managers, they need to count the receivables, payables on an exact basis. There is no ifs and buts about it. As you go up the ladder, treasurers, trading numbers, check details that they issue must always be exact. The CFOs, when you get to be the boss of everyone in finance, his plans and his numbers must have little margin for error. It's as simple as that. Um, that's how finance is. All right. The past 6 months, we all know, we've all experienced. What has it gotten us? What has it given us? Crisis after crisis after crisis. The crisis, not only economically, but crisis in terms of social effects on us, psychological effects on us, because for some of us who may have lost a certain part of your income, uh, not being able to go see your clients, not being able to develop clients. So these are all effects of this crisis. What has it done to the economy? Let me outline this in the next few pages by several charts. I have to note though that these charts are not the be all and end all of an analysis of a crisis, or the how to take a look at overcoming a crisis. This is not an economic dissertation or a treatise. What this is just to let you know what the things people look at in terms of crisis and how these things affect them. The one on the left, loan defaults and receivable extensions. Take a look at this. The past due ratio of the banks from March 2020, which is about 3%. Take a look at where it is now, and that's what a few months ago, no? Almost 6, beyond 5. That's high. And take a look at the NPLs. NPLs are non-performing loans. It's also risen. The one on the right, the chart on the right, you can see this is the one that's given us a lot of consternation, if you will, in the past couple of months when this was announced. The GDP declined in the second quarter, which was April to June, by 16%. 16%. I don't recall ever seeing that in the last, even the last 10 years. But this is bad. Taking a look at the full year, we see different and many numbers coming from different practitioners, or whether economists or finance people. They're saying 2020 can end anywhere between 6.5 to 8.5. Negative, negative, no growth. Exports contracted by 37%. So taking a look at this slide, you're going to be disheartened. Okay, take a look at this. Job losses and salary cuts. Unemployment rate jumped to more than about 17% in first quarter 2020. It was a very low in the first when the year started. It was about 5. This is just as bad. People are unemployed, but they're not at the job that gives uh, their skills or their capabilities. They're not at the optimum level of employment. Just as bad. Take a look at trading losses here. Prior to, I recall sometime in just about a year ago, it was trading at about 7,000. It even reached about 8,600. 8,600. Where is it now? Uh, Yesterday or today, I think it was about 5,800. So these four slides tell us, uh, without even much going through much detailed analysis of looking into it, these things tell us the Philippine economy is in a tailspin. Fine, well, we can accept that. And if you take a look at this,
Mr. Sarsa, you're on mute.
There you go. Sorry about that. Uh, I'm not sure what was the last statement you heard, but let me continue in this slide. Let me start off on this slide. All right, from a finance student standpoint, you're in finance, you're in accounting, you're in management, you're in economics, you want to pursue a career in finance, you're going to ask yourself at this time, knowing uh, what's been happening to the economy, the country, and many companies that you know, even the companies that your dad is in, your cousins are in, your uncles are in, you're going to ask yourself, where am I going? Where is this all going? Finance, as I mentioned in the first few pages, is in an exact discipline with such rigid demands on terms of work output. So knowing what's uh, been there 6 months, is there uh, what we call a proverbial light at the end of the tunnel? How long is the tunnel? The tunnel seems so dark. Am I better off in some other discipline? Can I just be in a BPO? Can I just go to um, psychology, which could be easier? We don't know. Let's see. All right. This slide, I want to tell you all the things that we've seen the past 6 months, all the bad numbers we've seen, all the developments we've seen that created uncertain situation that we have. There is hope. There is large hope based on what we know, your elders, the ones who've been through so many crises in the past, crisis that we've undergone, a crisis that we've been able to address, crisis that we were able to overcome. But even in your own lives, you think about it. Let's all think about it quickly. 5 years ago, were you certain that you were going to be here now, where you are? For the older ones, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, were we certain that we were going to be here in 2020? No. Or even a year ago, even a year ago, for all of us. To me, the answer is no. Uh, even the best um, soothsayers will not be able to tell what exactly their where they would be at this point in time. All right, but let me tell you, this is not just a statement I make tongue in cheek. Let me move you here. I want to go through this, let you know the kind of crises we faced. Five, 1973, the OPEC oil crisis. 1983, the assassination of Ninoy Aquino. That was not the real crisis. That was, I guess, just the tipping point of how the crisis developed, no? Some kind of a trigger. The 1997 Asian financial crisis, the 2008 global financial crisis, and now what we have, the coronavirus. This is something I'll be the first to admit that I've gone through. Um, some people in our team in FINEX will never admit that they've gone through through this. Uh, I'm not sure if it's because they don't want to disclose their age, or maybe because of other issues. This is exciting. This is interesting. Let me try to compress these these 5 decades into maybe 10 minutes. So I'll try to walk you through, breeze you through the crisis, the statements of the crisis, and what happened after that. How the Philippines, how the private sector, and how the government went through all this. So please stay with us on this. All right. OPEC oil prices, oil crisis. 1973, if you, the, at that time, uh, oil prices were 3.3, 3.8 a barrel. In, in a year, because of the uh, oil producing countries in the Middle East, including, I think, Venezuela at that time, the prices moved to 819, an increase of 132%. So you can imagine how this affected the pump prices at that time. So inflation, because of that, because transportation, you transport goods, you transport people, transportation costs increased. So almost everything increased. So inflation at that time, and I'm guessing more than 60-70% of the audience has not seen this kind of inflation, which is 34.2. You've not seen this. I saw it, and I actually don't recall. Uh, I don't actually recall the exact price at that time. I didn't get to research the exact pump prices, so at least I can let you know what the, let's say, the price of rice was at that time. So at least you can somehow relate, no? But this happened. All right. This also affected our forex. Our forex from 678 went to 706. Our GDP. Take a look at the GDP, the one on the right, your gross domestic product, based on 2010 US dollars prices. No, our GDP 1973, we had a high GDP, I recall at that time. But after the crisis, during the crisis, right after the crisis, sorry, 1 year, 1 year, take a look at this. From 8.9% growth, it went to 3.6. 3.6. That is bad. That is bad. Maybe not as bad, the 16% negative, but it was bad. All right. These slides, the next two slides will tell you what happened after that. Depreciation of the peso. But take a look. 1973, 75, the peak, year-on-year change in the US dollar rate, the peak was hit in 1975 and it dropped to 1976. Well, the graph was not too steep for the next 3 years, 77, 78, 79, which means relatively stable. All right, the GDP, you take a look at this. The GDP, it concentrates again, year-on-year growth. The high, I mentioned already, high in 1973. That's why you see the arrow. The peak in 1973, that's a very sharp triangle there. 1973, and then dipped in 74, struggled in the whole of 75 probably. Yeah, 75. And take a look at how 75 to 1980 stabilized, not really increasing, but stable. Okay, let's take a look at the next slides. All right. So one crisis happened, one crisis faced, one crisis addressed, and we were able to overcome it. Took some time. Here, this is an interesting one. It's gonna get more interesting as we go along. Here, 1983, 1984. Take a look at the inflation rate, 50%. What was the inflation rate previously? 34. So this is even worse than the OPEC oil crisis. And this was the bad one. I remember this one. I was in banking then. Well, I've been in banking all my life, so the reason I guess I got volunteered for this talk is because I knew what happened in the financial community then. No? So take a look at this: 14 USD to 29 USD, double, more than double. Imagine the prices of goods, the prices of services, transport, travel, and everything. Uh, I'll have to let you know. It's not in this slide. A lot of things stopped at that time. 84, 85. A lot of things stopped, and this will tell you why. Take a look at the top chart. Bank lending rate at 30%. Philippines is compared to Malaysia. Malaysia's in the yellow. Singapore, Thailand, and the US. The US has had very low rates then. But take a look at our performance. And I can tell you several anecdotes on this. The 30%, the 30% was the rate published, published. And in the banking circles, what was published was not necessarily the rate that was being given to the clients. Um, uh, you may condemn some financial institutions for not being uh, for what you call this truth in advertising act. They will advertise 30, but they will lend something else. Even now, they will say our rates are 6, but they will lend at 7. They will lend at 8. All right. Take a look at the next slide. I mean, the next chart. So the lending rate 30. I can tell you there was a point when it was getting to 50. 50. Take a look at the next chart. NPLs grew from 13 to 22. 22. 22 is bad simply because if you take a look at it, that means only 78%, 77% of your portfolio is making money. So it's a kind of um, uh, something that has to depend on another. If your 77% of your portfolio is the only one that's making money, you got to raise the rates to be able to recover your costs. And since the rates are high and you're paying your employees, you have your overhead and all that, you got to be able to, uh, you have to raise the rates. So it's a circle that keeps on uh, hitting us. This one again, this one is interesting. Our external debt right now, our debt to GNP, although the ratio here is GNI, no, but our debt to GNP is about close to 50, if not over 50, no, at this time. Take a look at this. It's 99%, and this is GNI, not GDP even. The next chart is very interesting. Take a look at the yellows. Net transfers are simply payments abroad, and then uh, 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 payments for debt, external debt transfers. No, uh, the what this chart says is our interest payments, which are the yellow ones, were more than the inflows of money. Take a look at what year is it? 1982, 83, 84, 85, 86. Take a look at that. What happened here is this is an interesting story. The Philippines almost defaulted. We did not default on our loans. What happened was the the government through the uh, through the through negotiations with the lenders. We had so many lenders at that time. We had to reschedule all our debt because we could not pay our debts on time. On time. Let's say if there was an amortization or principal due in June, we would not be able to pay up the full amount in June, but we'd be able to pay that after a certain point in time. So instead of paying, let's say, X billion in June, we'd pay only X 100 million, and the rest we will reschedule. That's why at that time there was uh, what we call credit schedules being given to the uh, lenders. No, this was not good simply because if your credit rating is bad, everything else, uh, your exports, your imports, your imports get more expensive. You can't get a lot of imports that you want. Um, your borrowing rate increases. All right. So again, take a look at this. After all those um, bad scenarios, take a look at this. This is the rebound. You know that a jock wrote this because it's a rebound. It's not even stated as a recovery. No. All right. So apologies for that. When Cory Aquino came in 1986, and you will see here, uh, there are three charts here. Let's focus on the left. 86, the NPLs started moving down. The NPLs were at high at 20. So Cory was installed in 86, 87. It dropped and almost stabilized at the 10, 11% level until 1991. Excuse me. 1992, we had the new president. Uh, but this is another story which I can tell you. That's why uh, I had to be careful in sharing what's the kind of slides that I need to share with you. Otherwise, the whole story will really lengthen. No? So we had some sort of reprieve then. The NPLs went down. And take a look at the GDP. The year-on-year growth per capita became better. The GDP itself was not growing as fast as we wanted it to. It grew by several hundred millions from 86 to 94. But still, it was growing. Third chart, bottom right, is another interesting slide. FDIers, foreign uh, in the foreign direct investment. These are investment into companies, equity investment into companies. These are not investments bought by foreigners in the stock market. That's portfolio investment. So these are direct investments that help the company grow because the investments stay there for a long time. Take a look at this. It dropped from 88, from reached the peak of in 1987, and it dropped. What this is a precipitous drop until 1989. Slowly recovered until 1992. 1992, again, we had the new president. So this was the rebound. This one took a little longer. If you were following the charts of the previous crisis, this one took a little longer. Oh, let me go back to this. I got to share something with you. I remember my ex-boss, Jobo Fernandez, became was taken out of Far East Bank as the chairman and was brought into the BSP. I mean, sorry, that was Central Bank at the time. My apologies for that. Central Bank at the time. 83, and then I saw him sometime in 85. I visited his office. In 2 years that I didn't see him, he really aged a lot. So, I saw him and I talked to him. I said, "Sir, how are you?" He said, "I'm fine, doing well." This is a totally different job from commercial banking, as you know, Vic. But I was very upfront with him. I said, "Sir, seems that this job is not good for you. You aged a little." That I wasn't even um, uh, what you call this exactly accurate in my statements. He aged a lot, gray hair, receding hairline. Said, "Yeah, that's part of the job, Vic. Central banking is extremely difficult." So that's the kind of difficulty uh, our leaders had at the time. But the good thing that came out of it, the ones that led the country out of this crisis, and also in the previous crisis, which I failed to mention in the two, were the finance people, largely. I will say that with all confidence. Largely, it was the finance people, the BSP, the central bank, the finance people, uh, the people in the Department of Trade. They were the ones who had a major role in uplifting the economy. Okay, sorry. Let me move to the next one. This was in 1997, Asian financial crisis. Uh, if you take a look at your history, this will tell you that it first happened in Thailand when Thailand ran out of dollars. They simply ran out of dollars. So the currency almost tanked. Their their the conversion ratio. I forgot the rates on how it moved. The Thai baht, and within 2 months, even less, Indonesia followed and the Philippines followed. And would you believe Korea followed also, along with Malaysia? So here it will tell you 97. Take a look at the dip in 97, the slight uptick in 98, but it struggled for a year at a low index of 1,000, at 1,000. Foreign investments, take a look. Direct investments couldn't even rise. That's the yellow one. But take a look at the portfolio investments. These are the speculative investments given by foreigners when they want to uh, test a country's um, ability to uh, improve their earnings on their capital. They come here, make investments, buy stocks, and depending on depending on what happens to the company, depending on what happens to the industries they're in, they go out, sell their investments, and leave the country. So take a look at what happened to that, which means there were a lot of speculators at that time. Third one, third chart, change in current account deficit. Take a look at this. Ooh, take a look at this. So high. But here, take a look at the Philippine, the conversion, forex rate at that time from 30 right now to about 20 years ago. It steadily moved up and it really rose from 97 to 2000. Now we're hovering at about 48. So for the past 20 years, we've been struggling. We've been, how do you call this, relatively stable at about the 50, 48, 49. It was about 48 something the other day. But it struggled in these times. Take a look at that. 97, 98, 99, 2000. From a low of below 30 even. So 4 years of difficulties. And take a look at the inflation rate. It only dropped. It hit the peak in 98, only dropped starting 90, late 98, 99, and until 2000. Inflation rate right now, Where was it the last time I looked? Um, Before the pandemic, it was about 3. We should be higher now. Again, NPLs. These are critical. Take a look at the NPLs at that period. No? NPLs reaching in 1999 almost 16%. Take a look at the GDP. The year-on-year growth, it was flat in 1998 from a high in 96 and 97, but 6 and 5, it's almost zero. Recovered in 99 and 2000. So these slides will tell you, uh, even without a long essay on how the Philippines was able to recover, will tell you that the Philippines was able to recover. And I will say again in all confidence that finance people played a significant role in the recoveries, in the rebounds. Wait, okay, let me move to the next slide now. Came from here. Okay, very informative slide. What happened? Take a look at the GDP. GDP growth, as you saw, almost zero. 2002, 2000, we almost hit 5%. 2000, we were hitting almost 4% in 2002. And the reserves, take a look at the reserves. We struggled, I recall, with our reserves ever since the 80s. The latest number I saw to 2020, now it's about we're close to $100 billion. This was about, let me try to recall the number. It's not in my research. I didn't do research on this. It's just coming off my head right now. It was about $11 million in 98, 99, thereabouts. So we've come a long way. We've come a really long way. Take a look at the Forex. In 2007, for the 3-year period, it dropped from almost 49 to where we are, where it is in 2010, to about 45, 46 level. No, the index 3,000, 3,000 in 2007, 3,000 something, 3,3, 3,4. It's about almost 3,000 flat in November 2009. Your oil prices, oh, it really was a, it's always been a roller coaster for this. Right now, Brent crude is about what? Oil prices about 42, 43. Where is it? Where was it? Take a look at the movement. Up, down, up, down, up, down. The peak hitting in 2008. It reached, I recall, more than 100 per barrel. So that's why I recall in 2008 there were many people who I had several friends using 3 cars. They suddenly just started using 1 car for the family because of the price of oil, no? Price of gas that they were buying. All right, the fifth. Oh, sorry, we still have one more, the pandemic, which will, the crisis we're currently in. This one was global. This crisis was global. So affected virtually all countries in the world. No? And if you take a look at the GDP, it happened in 2007. Take a look at what happened in 2008, 2009. The recovery was only made in 2010. 4.3 GDP growth rate, 1.4 in 2009. Take a look at what got hit. Agriculture industry, 4.3. Manufacturing, 4.3. We're still largely an agricultural country in terms of GDP, but in terms of gross national income, it's something else. We're dominated by the BPO and the remittances. Take a look at what was hit, transportation. So these are the basic services and commodities that hit us during the global financial crisis. Take a look at this. What happened after that? That was only about 12 years ago. Unemployment rate was very high in 2008, 2009, 2010. We only It was only stabilized after 2, 3 years, and it dropped, and we were able to finally manage it in 2015 at just a little over 3%. Foreign uh, direct investment from 2008 2014, year-on-year growth, uh, nothing, there's no um, trend there, but it also suffered. And right now, we're still trying to address foreign direct investment. Take a look at the gross national income, also suffered. But again, the key statement, we were able to rebound. All right, we've seen 5 decades, and I gave you five um, different crises that happened in the 5 decades that I showed you from 73 until now. This virus now is the crisis that we have. So for the past, take a look at this slide where it shows how the countries, the Philippines, Thailand, Malaysia, and Vietnam, have performed GDP-wise, production-wise, productivity-wise, from 1980 up to 2019. The last, the 2019 number of the Philippines in GDP, if I recall, is about 36 something, 362, 36, sorry, 320, 340 something. A little higher than us is Malaysia. Highest is Thailand. Thailand is about, if I recall, 500 something, almost bumping 500. The lowest is Vietnam. But take a look at the curve of the Philippines. No, it's a smooth upward curve, really going up from the 2008 2009 level until 2019. So where we are now. This slide alone tells us that despite all the crises we've gone through, 1973 up to now, we can still grow. We were still growing. We were still producing despite the hardship. We were working hard from all sectors, manufacturing, servicing, to um, all the other sectors, the financial institutions, working hard to be able to grow their own companies and contribute to the growth of the country. This is a slide everyone will quickly understand and appreciate. Okay. Why do I say in the third, fourth slide, I said, despite all the uh, despite all the crisis and the crisis that we're in now, I mentioned there is hope. There is a lot of hope. Even if we ask ourselves, what happens now? I mean, this virus, we don't know what's going to happen next week, today, tomorrow. We don't know what's going to happen. Take a look. Let's analyze. Wait, there you go. Let's go back here. Let's analyze this slide on the left. Since 2006, there have been new businesses. If you analyze the slide, 2006, almost 14,000 new. In 2017, almost 24,000 new companies. And for somebody to take a look at that, and for me to address this, how to relate this to how a finance professional or somebody who wants to go seriously into a finance career will affect him. It's quite simple. All these new companies need a finance team. They do. No company cannot work without a finance guy, whether a finance manager, an accountant, or a treasurer. As you grow bigger, you need all three. Maybe you can survive with one when you're small. You'll probably need two when you're in the medium size. So the opportunities, crisis or not, are there. Just take a look at this. Number of banks, this alone. This alone will tell us also in the finance side. No? BSB told us there were 1,205 new branches. There were new banks also. There were several consolidations that were undergone, that were undertaken, sorry. So when you take a look at this, 1,205, my question here is, where will they get? A branch always needs, except for a small branch, the branch will always need an accountant and a cashier. Sometimes you combine them, but ideally you don't, and a branch manager. Where would you get them? From the finance field. So these two slides alone will tell you the opportunities here in the new companies and here in the banks. Let me stay here. I just wanted to clarify what I mean. I just wanted to take a peek at the next slide though. Banks. Okay, you're saying that 1,205 new branches where you need the cashiers, accounting teams, the managers. I will tell you something, just in case you ask, oh, okay, I'll go to a new company, I'll be a manager there, I'll go to a branch, I can be an accountant, I can be a cashier, I can be a branch manager, but what's my career path there? Let me tell you, in my own experience, since 1973, most of the senior officers and presidents and chairman, maybe you can forget the chairman, most of the presidents, the EVPs, and the senior officers of banks came from the finance field. I'm extremely fortunate, and I will. This is some kind of a bragging statement from me. I was extremely fortunate. I am extremely fortunate to have worked with, let me say, about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 colleagues who became bank presidents in our time. And these were people who came from the finance field. Pretty good experience. And I'm lucky to have known, I'm fortunate to have known the past 3 or 4 Banco Central presidents even the central bank governors, and they were all in the finance, came to the finance field. Well, a couple of them came from the economic side, but they had strong finance backgrounds. So from the financial institutions industry to whatever industries companies are uh, incorporated on a yearly basis, the the opportunities are there. This one, BPO, which is uh, what we hear of almost on a regular basis. The BPO industry came to us several, well, a bit more than what, 15 years ago. And although these numbers are old, I can tell you already, in 2020, number of employees is about close to a million, if not more than a million. I wasn't able to update this, but close to a million, and it's growing on a yearly basis. You will say, I can almost hear some people saying, "Hey, that's a BPO. That's only a contact center." But take a look at this. Take a look at this. This is a very meaningful, informative slide. Call centers in 2008 composed 48% only, only. But when they started off, when the BPO business started off, it was mostly call centers. Take a look at 2017. The call centers, it's not even called call centers anymore, are somewhere in the other BPM industries or in the customer relationship management. Take a look at take a look at what's grown and what's dominating the BPO industry: computer programming, computer consultancy, sales marketing, and these are what we call the KPOs, the knowledge process outsourcing. All right, as a finance practitioner, finance student say, wait, there is no finance here. There is. There is a finance. Um, Let me tell you how it works on the next slide. Um, we have several banks that set up BPO uh, in the BPOs in the country, from JP Morgan to Wells Fargo to Chevron to Shell and many others that set up their BPOs here, where treasury operations, accounting operations, and finance operations are managed by the Philippines. Or don't make me forget Deutsche, no, because my brother's there. He will kill me if he finds out I never mentioned Deutsche. So these are companies that hire Filipino workers, Filipino finance people, to handle the treasury and accounting and finance side of the operations. Europe, US, sometimes ASEAN. Take a look at these two slides. Let's appreciate them. Finance and accounting activities. What's the salary? The highest, of course, is software publishing. It's highly technical, no? The others, the lowest is in the animated film. The highest on the left side is software publishing. And take a look at the 2017 software publishing monthly is about 90,000. I'm not sure if I'm in the right business. Finance and accounting activities, 68,000. So the kind of opportunities that exist for finance students is also here. Despite the, what you call the connotation, the impression we have of BPOs that it's only a call center. I don't want to go into that because I'm going to get only 20,000 a month. But let's take away that impression. There's a lot more going going for the BPOs. So we've seen all that. You've seen all the experience. I would say bring it on. Whatever that pandemic has to give, bring it on. Knowing what the Philippines and the Filipino can do, give it to us. We'll handle it. Let me just share quickly, and I think Ned is going to uh, expound on this issue right after me. No? So you will ask, okay, I'm in finance. You told me of the opportunities. What do I need to do? Where do I go? What tools, as you say, will you give me, or do I need to give to myself, or somebody has to give me for me to be able to manage, successfully manage, and successfully overcome any crisis that comes my way? Okay, let me let me start from the easy one to the harder one. There is no, to me, there is no substitute for learning. Nothing. Many of you are in school or just out of school, but you will find out you will never stop learning. You cannot. Even the statement is very precise, it's very robust. You cannot stop learning. Okay? So these are quick statements I will give to you from the easiest to the, well, I guess uh, the ones the ones that will take a longer time. Excel. Learn the pivot. I wish I've had time. So you know that the again the a jock made this statement because there's a statement on basketball. Learn the pivot, master Excel, and learn how to model. Financial modeling, ha? Hindi yung mga model na mga, that not the modeling kind of where you go up a ramp and display your clothes. These two things are not, I would say, obviously useful tools, but these are necessary. These are needed, whether you like it or not. You have to be extremely good at Excel. Okay. Third one, you're in finance. Learn valuation. I'm sure all of you have learned valuation, but get into the deeper side of it. I first learned valuation some years back, and every 3 or 4 years, there are new things that come out that I have to learn, relearn. There's even sometimes when I have to discard my old learning and learn the new way of doing it. It changes every time. Fourth, get an MBA, get an MA, go for the CFA, go for CMA, or get a PhD. Let me tell you why. I've lost I've lost some colleagues, some subordinates abroad. Huh? I lost one to Belgium. I lost several people who applied in the Bahamas, the US, Europe, simply because they took up higher studies other than their accounting or management careers. I've had people where they graduated, CFA has 3 levels. I've had people who just graduated and they were the second level of the CFA. I've had people I've where after 2 years of working with us, they went to get an MBA. I've had people who got their CMA. I've known of people who went through PhDs after a certain period of time, and it always helps. This is unarguable. It's always helpful. Okay, to me and to everyone here, the most important: master your craft. You've held statements like, you can be a master of all trades, but If you want a very useful piece of advice, you can be a master of all trades, but sorry, you can be a jack of all trades, but you have to be at least a master of one. Master of one. Do that. And the fifth, this is equally important. Economics should be in your consciousness, whether you like it or not. Every day you'll see GDP, CPI, um, growth rates, GNI, whatever. So it has to be in your consciousness. You have to speak it on a daily basis. Just make sure when you use when you uh, when you just make sure to not use it when you're trying to attract someone in the opposite sex. That's the easiest way to lose someone. What's this? How to lose a guy in 10 days? You talk to somebody of the opposite sex, economics of the econometrics of this, you lose that person in 10 minutes, 10 seconds even. Okay? So use it in the office only and with your colleagues. All right. How do you, aside from that, what else do you need to do? A lot of learning right now is online, offline, written, uh, oral, webinars, seminars, webinars like this. Attend every webinar you can if you have the time. Attend every seminar you. It's a continuing process. I'll keep on harping on that. Uh, Learning is a continuing process. If you take a look at it also on the finance, everything on finance is on the web. I always look at the Modern for valuation, a few others, and it's always available. But let me give you a tip on this. I never use, and in the many years that I've been teaching, I tell my colleagues when I teach them, never use when you do a search engine, when do a, you search something on a search engine, the first two or first three that come out as a description of the item you're searching, never use that. Never use that. I will not even mention the name. No? It's an encyclopedia of some sort. Never use that. I found out recently that if I want to get an accurate, a scientific um, study on something I want to learn, it's use Google Scholar. Google Scholar. I recently took to Google Scholar to research about the coronavirus, and there were so many well-written articles, so technically written, I got a nosebleed after about 30 minutes of reading one. But it's accurate. It has to be accurate, and it's well-founded. The thing that you need, the, the reason why you need to do that is because we all know there's a lot of fake news moving around. Easily what 80-90% of the things you see on social media could be fake news. So when you do your research, make sure you get it from the uh, reliable source. All right, we're down to the last two slides, but let me just tell you, these are the two most important things. I'm sorry to bore you. All right, the most important after learning all the technical skills, communication. They call it the soft skills. Even if I'm the best in analysis, I understand valuation, I understand ratio analysis, I understand, and I'm the best in modeling. But if I cannot communicate it well, I cannot communicate it properly, I cannot communicate it convincingly, somebody else will beat me to it. Somebody will beat me to it. Okay? So learn presentation skills, learn writing skills, and the two most important, and I'll tell you very quick stories, so at least it doesn't bore you. Speech clarity, and speech recognition. I was in corporate banking for many years, and there were some clients I had to face, and I remember quite a few whose speech I could not recognize. I thought they were saying this when they were saying something else. So I had the thing I did was I had to bring somebody to help me understand what they were saying. And there were some clients also where I was speaking and they couldn't understand what I was saying. They said, am I speaking Greek? Or am I speaking wrong? Is my intonation wrong? Is my diction wrong? Apparently, when you talk to Americans or Europeans, in British, the way you speak, well, we always think that they have an accent. But if you reverse it, we have an accent to them. So speech clarity and speech recognition, very important. And the last two, timing and communication. You're never going to send a marketing email at 6 o'clock in the morning, or you're not going to send a marketing email on Sunday when he's having dinner, lunch with his family. The most important communication, listening, listening skills. The more you listen, the more you understand, the more you understand, the more you'll be able to craft what's needed by the one talking to you, whether it's your boss, your client, your counterparty, or your regulator. Listen. Okay, sorry, this is the last no. When when we face someone, when we face someone, finance, this is, I guess, due to our training. Whether it's your boss, it's your colleague, it's your counterparty, you're doing a deal, whoever it is, when he says something and you're talking about numbers, you're talking about the deal, you're talking about an analysis. When he says something, finance people always pick up a pen and start to write. Let's say you're talking about interest rates and you'll say you're the banker. You said, oh, our rates are 7%, we can lend you 5 billion. And he says, no, I want 8 billion and I want it at 3%. You always pick it up, right? X billion, what did he say? Let me give you an option, which is I don't want you to discard that. I mean, you sure you can continue writing, but there are two things I want you to do. One is ask why. Why did he say that? Why did he ask for 8? And why did he ask for 3 when I offered him 5 and I offered him 7? Okay? And these statements, just examples of what I typically go through, does his statement improve his position in the deal? 2, is it going to be disadvantageous to me? What's his basis for saying that statement? If I say no, is he going to walk out? If I say yes, am I going to lose in the deal? These are things you will learn over time, that you need to learn over time to read your counterparty. Why did he say that? Why is he saying that? Second, this, it takes practice. I learned it through many years. I still fail somewhat. How did he say it? When he said, my need is 8 instead of 5, was he confident? Was he stuttering? Was he lying? Was he telling the truth? Was he bluffing? How did he say it? Take a look at his body language. This is, for many years, even without the start of the first crisis that I described to you, we were taught this in school. I remember our professors were saying, even me as a professor, do not take my word as gospel. And he was a priest. He was a priest, but he was teaching economics. And he said, I want you to always have a critical mind. Analyze everything I say, challenge, if you must, everything that I say. Don't just accept it simply because I'm the teacher, simply because I'm the professor, simply because I'm the president of the school. That is critical thinking that we need. Again, I will say, social media, there's a lot of items going on in the social media. Many of the things we see are fake. So you need to be a critical thinker for us to be able to uh, correctly analyze and evaluate everything that comes to us. I have a last slide here, but I'm not going to go through it. Uh, I'll let the next speaker go through it, which is Ned. Let me end my talk. Typically, people end the talks with a quote, a an inspiring quote. Okay, but I'll try to finish it in a minute. Sorry for the organizers. Sorry to the organizers. I'll give you four quotes, not one, not one, not two, not three, but four. Okay, let me start from the sublime to the, I guess, uh, the most practical one. Okay, one of my favorite philosophers was Kierkegaard. He was my best grades were in philosophy, by the way. Sorry. Kierkegaard was saying people have anxiety. He was the one. I'm not sure if he was the one who coined the word angst, but he used it often. Said people have angst simply because there's so many choices in the world. There's freedom to choose, and there's ambiguity when you face choices, whether you go to the left, go to the right. People have this. But his most powerful statement to me was life can only be understood backwards. If you want to take a look at history, you have to go back in your life and try to understand what happened. But he said it must be lived forwards. Okay, so that's to all of you, all the future finance leaders of the country. Second quote is Mother Teresa, very pragmatic lady who became a saint. She said, very quite simply, rest days past. Tomorrow we don't know what's going to go on. Not in those exact words. But we're here today. Let us begin today. Third is Mahatma Gandhi, uh, a revered leader of India, who said, your future will be dictated by what you do today. Quite clear. And the fourth, I'm not sure if you're going to laugh at this, uh, from one existentialist, Kierkegaard, to a real existentialist. If you watch the movie Back to the Future 3, there was a scene there where Doc Brown said to Marty McFly, and it's a very terse statement, your future hasn't been written yet. It's up to you to write your future. And with those quotes, the last statement, uh, I end my presentation, tell you, it's up to you to write your future. Thank you, and good afternoon to everyone.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Sarsa. And yes, it's really up to you to write your own future. Indeed, there is hope. We do have to learn to model, especially for the ladies. I meant financial modeling. We also have to practice soft skills. That's very important in this new norm. Communication skills, presentation skills, writing skills, speech and recognition, clarity, timing of communication, and listening skills. Most importantly, we always have to do critical thinking. And of course, we have to learn to pivot. Speaking of being able to pivot, our next speaker did a major pivot from the Air Force to finance. Let's welcome Mr. Ned Coseco.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I hope you're still with us. First, I'd like to thank the organizers of this conference for inviting me to speak before you, particularly to address our young leaders at JFINEX. I also noticed that we have some more mature or maybe more experienced colleagues from FINEX as well. Good afternoon to you too, and thanks for joining us this afternoon. Thank you to Benny for introducing me earlier. I just wanted to correct one of the things that you mentioned, that I'm a fighter pilot. That is actually one of my failures, which I will share with you later on when we discuss failures and successes. Let me now try to share my slides with you. Or can I ask, yeah, thanks, Rafi. Next slide, please. I'll try to keep this tight. And the next slide will cover my outline. My outline will cover the good news, the survey result that you all participated in, well, the JFINEX participants participated in. Then we'll talk a little bit about failing and succeeding, especially during these times. Then zooming ahead. Next chart, please. First, the good news. The Philippine economy is stable. We have a strong peso, as you must have noticed, and savings and credit is actually increasing. This was reported earlier during the conference that both savings and credit is increasing. Banks are actually lending out. We also have recovering OFW remittances. This is unusual. Some people found this unusual because there were some job losses abroad. But apparently, we underestimated the savings that OFWs actually kept abroad. So we have recovering OFW remittances that are coming into play, and that's probably one of the reasons why we also have a strong peso. Of course, one of the other reasons is we have weak importations at this point because of the lack of consumer demand. Other good news is that the broadband infrastructure rating was upgraded from poor. This was according to a U.S. rating agency, Ookla. And this will help us, particularly the students and also those working from home, to actually operate efficiently. One other good news that was shared during the conference was that the BPO work from home is currently at 90% and growing. This means that industry is normalizing, and a big chunk of it could actually be done from home. So that's very good news for most of you. Now, I'd like to move on to the survey results. Can I move to the next chart, please? First, I'd like to acknowledge Michael Del Carmen, who actually prepared the survey and the report that went with it. And the objectives of this survey was to understand the concerns of students, the unemployed, and the working. We had 1,387 respondents with 1,301 consenting. So we captured the consenting ideas. We wanted to understand the status of students and the factors affecting their education, understand job hunting status, and the working challenges. Can I have the next slide, please? Of course, the positive effects that were described in the survey, which you participated in, is that it cuts commute and you're able to control your time. There's also some cost savings, but you only rated this, essentially it was an average rating. You were happy with it, but not truly excited about it, but it actually worked. It cuts commute, doesn't it? And you're able to control your time and work on your schedule. So I think one of the questions that was also raised is the fact that we're wondering if the educational system is truly preparing the next generation for what is about to happen. Particularly, well, it was discussed earlier about artificial intelligence coming into play. And of course, what is needed, what is definitely needed. Mr. Sarsa mentioned that decision making and interpersonal skills are very important. Can we move on to the next slide? The, the survey results for this question were the future concerns and the impact of the pandemic. And the, of course, the impact of the pandemic include the challenges that are showing up for internships, and of course, the lack of financial support. The difficulties, of course, the disconnections, the increased workload, the lack of quality for skill-based subjects. So I'll give you a couple of seconds to take a look at the charts and to understand what your fellow students, how your fellow students rated this. The difficulties were really in the disconnections and in the quality of the broadband, but then again, of course, that is improving. The some of the other, in addition to this, there were students who had to stop. This was shared with us because of financial difficulties. The hands-on activities, particularly for laboratory work, for you know, I have a son who's actually a medical clerk this year, and he will have a hard time catching up with clerical or clinical duties, right? So the hands-on and the laboratory work will become a challenge in this environment. The conduct of examinations was also mentioned, and of course, the quality of the examinations. Can I move to the next chart, please? The next chart actually shows us some of the results from the unemployed. And for the unemployed, well, according to the Social Weather Station, there are 27 million adults currently unemployed as of July 2020. This is actually a big jump because of the, obviously because of the pandemic. And these are the results of that survey. We have trouble with the employment opportunities, of course, and the continuing impact of the pandemic is wreaking havoc on the job opportunities. There's also uncertain career direction. I think this was mentioned because some of us are trying to figure out where to go in this environment. There are clearly challenges in some industries. There are loser industries. There are clear loser industries already. During the conference, it was described that there may be a K recovery, not a U shape, not a V shape, but a K recovery, which means there will be some that will be extremely successful, and there will be some that will not succeed in this environment. So I guess this is leading to that uncertain career direction, and I guess you have to be very careful in looking for industries, right, that will succeed in this environment. We have to make sure that we hit the right industries also when we're looking. We move on to the next chart, and this will cover the survey results for working professionals. And the working professionals that we surveyed mentioned that they're willing to attend and plan meetings and to respond anytime and work overtime. They were not too keen, of course, on the pay deductions or the benefit deductions. This is covered in the survey, and the future concerns still involve career development. Okay. So we'll post the details of the survey on our site, so you have a better feel of what's going on with your colleagues in schools and our young professionals, right? I'd like to move on now to the next chart, and let me talk to you about failing. I did mention that I'm not a fighter pilot. I wanted to correct that. That was one of my failures. That was one of my early failures. You know, you try very hard. I joined the military at 17, worked through college, and then went through flying school. So I tried very hard to join the fighters, and I failed. I failed in joining the fighters because at that time it was the F8 program, and I was too short for the F8s. I would have needed a cushion, and it would have been unsafe for me in case I needed to eject. So it was a choice of joining either the heavy airlift command, which was flying the C-130s and the C-123s at that time. So from flying jets or keen to driving sports cars, I was looking at flying trucks, right? So that was difficult for me as well. So that was one of my earlier failures. But you know what? It will happen. Many of us have experienced not making it to the sports team. You know, you try and try, and it's hard, right? And then you don't make it. You're frustrated, and we understand. It's very frustrating when you've tried your best, trying to get into the best graduate schools, for instance, or trying to find that first job. We know it's very frustrating, but you know what? It will happen. It will happen. You see, a lot of us, in particularly in FINEX, if you've observed us, and a lot of us are quite successful in our careers. But you know what? We've only been successful because we've had more successes than failures. We too failed in a lot of things. Finding jobs, we had to apply early on when I needed to shift careers from being a military pilot and joining the private sector. I too had to apply to various companies and got rejections before I ended up with the Yellow Corporation. And it was a dream job for me. And I worked for them for almost 30 years. But I had early failures as well. And even during my career, we had failures as well. But it was really the way we recovered from these failures that really mattered. So the failures are just a fact of life. So the message here is it will happen, but you need to remain hopeful. You also have to ask for a hand, meaning you need to ask for help. Some people find it very difficult asking for help, perhaps out of their shame, or maybe the reverse, which is out of pride. But you know what? There's nothing wrong in asking for a hand. Everyone here, even at FINEX, we're all here to lend you a helping hand if you need it. The third item is fall forward, not back. What does this mean? Essentially, what we mean by this one is that you need to keep on going. And you have to try. You have to keep on trying. Because not trying at all, you will fall backward. And you're not falling forward in progression. It's not progressing, it's just falling backward. You're not attempting hard enough, right? So remember that. Fall forward, and then, of course, believe in His grace that everything will turn out all right in the end. Okay? We move on to the next chart, please. So zoom ahead. It's important that you all dream big. You need to find your passion. You need to find what you really like to do. I mentioned to you that I really wanted to be a pilot since I was a young boy. Failing to become a fighter pilot, which is what I really wanted to become, I needed to pivot, right? As Mr. Sarsa described it, I needed to pivot. But you also have to understand with all your senses on what has to be achieved, what has to be done to achieve your dream. Because you need to set goals, right? You need to set goals because dreams without goals will simply remain as dreams, right? You need to plan daily, you need to plan weekly, you need to plan monthly, and possibly years in advance. And of course, understanding with all your senses of what needs to be done. Mr. Sarsa mentioned some things that are going on in this environment. And understanding with all your senses and understanding what skills I need. And I think I'd like to mention what the previous speaker actually mentioned this morning. Some of you were not present in that call, and he mentioned number one, interpersonal skills; number two, creative ability; number three, analytical skills, decision skills, technical proficiency. Did you know that Excel has analytic capability, or even Excel for AI? Did you know that? How many of you have even tried Power BI, which is an Excel report generator? So Excel, it's a basic tool, but it's becoming a very powerful tool, right? Developing adaptability to changing conditions. Remember Darwin's principle: it is not the strongest that survive or the fittest, but the most adaptable. Then, of course, empathy, or the ability to relate, which brings us to full circle on interpersonal skills, knowing how to get along and knowing how to relate with everyone around you, your classmates, your peers, and even your superiors, right? So, but lastly, the last message, of course, is to have faith that all this will turn out all right. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for listening. And I bring you back to our panelists now. Benny?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ned, for that insightful presentation. Yes, we need to zoom ahead. We need to set our goals. We need to practice soft skills. We need to work on our soft skills, the ability to relate to each other. And yes, failures will happen. But as the saying goes, it's not how hard you fall, but how well you pick yourself up. At this point in today's sessions, we will still have three distinguished panelists. But before anything else, I'd like to introduce you to my co-moderator this afternoon, Mr. Jeremy Abano from the JFINEX committee. Jeremy, take it away.
Thank you, Benny. Good afternoon, everyone. Those were really great presentations from two seasoned, well, i.e. old speakers. To the students and the young professionals who are still in attendance, you are very fortunate since you get to attend this session at no cost, unlike programs from other finance youth organizations. Now, again, just to remind everyone, please send in your questions in the Q&A box in Zoom, while those watching in the JFINEX Facebook page or in YouTube, please leave a message on the Facebook page and we'll get to them as well. At this point, we will now hear reactions and inputs from our panelists. We have in our panel Mr. Emiliano Librea III, also known as Third, a partner at P&A Grant Thornton. We also have Ms. Jade Ross de Vinegracia. She's also a partner at Isla Lipana & Co., PricewaterhouseCoopers. And finally, we have Ms. Lofreda del Carmen, our overall chair for JFINEX committee and the president and CEO of Forecasting and Planning Technologies, Inc. Perhaps Third, you can kick it off.
Sorry, I was on mute. Season ba, Jeremy? Season.
Season.
So hello and good afternoon to everyone. So I think there's a lot of people on in our Zoom event and also watching on YouTube and Facebook. So hello to everyone. Thank you for the introduction, Jeremy. I really enjoyed the discussions of Vic and Ned. My key takeaways really were around around not losing hope and that we have always overcome. So that's one key message that I think a lot of our young finance, our students and young professionals can take away from this event. Now that despite everything that you see and you might be at the moment, in this moment, feeling a little down because of everything that's happening. Historically, we have always overcome. And the messages around learning and that we're continuously learning, and that's something that you always need to imbibe. And be a habit, I guess, a personal mantra, if you will, that you have. Ned talked about his I don't know why what do you call that, the fighter pilot story, Ned's fighter pilot story, and he classified it as a failure. that my what I got there, and when he said that, it's successful people, it's not as if they have not had any failures. It's that they've had more successes than they've had failures. If I can take that a little bit further by um, having an attitude that, you know failure is okay because that's how you learn. If you look at um, all the failures that you've done, and you learn from it, so no regrets, just learnings. If that's your attitude towards life, then I think you will go far. And then plus, of course, all the opportunities. We can go into more detail about that later, around the opportunities that actually are still there, and then what students and young people need to do to improve themselves and develop themselves. So that's it for now. No, maybe Jade and Dada can talk more about that.
Okay. Thank you very much, Third. We'll get back to you later. Let's now hear from Jade. Wanna
Yeah,
go through the inputs?
thank you. Thank you so much, Jeremy, and good afternoon, everyone. I just want to echo Jeremy's observation that Vic's extensive knowledge of the previous crisis, including the OPEC crisis in 1973, is really evident of his age. But kidding aside, I think both Ned and Vic touched on very, very important points, no? And I just want to highlight three key takeaways from what I heard from our speakers this afternoon. First is that finance will continue to play an important role in business. Yes, digital transformation and automation will change the way we do our work. Yes, we've heard in the session this morning, for those of you who attended, that a lot of these jobs will be replaced by AI, specifically finance functions. No? However, there are also studies that show that for every one job that will be replaced by automation, four new jobs will be created. Just take a look at how accounting has actually evolved. Previously, and now I'm showing my age. Previously, recording of transaction is done manually using a columnar book. But now there are very complex computerized accounting systems, which Dada will happily describe to you. And some are even cloud-based. And soon, I think the adoption of blockchain will be more widespread. No? This development certainly changed the way that we did our work. They took out the repetitive and the mundane tasks of recording manually, but accountants and financial professionals are still required to interpret the numbers. The human intervention is still there to make judgments and to make decisions. No? In PwC Philippines alone, the number of people we have is around 3 times more than when I first joined the firm. So while we continue to use technology to streamline our work, we also continue to hire people to provide more value-adding services. No? The job description has changed. It may be different from what it was before, but as the speaker said, there will always be opportunities. So what does this tell us? No? It tells us that we need to evolve. We need to continue to upskill ourselves. Learning should not stop just because we have already graduated or we have reached a certain position in the organization. We should all embrace learning and continue to reinvent ourselves. And I think Vic also emphasized continuous learning earlier. Second, new world, new skill. That's actually how we call our upskilling program in PwC. Vic alluded to the importance of both technical and soft skills earlier. If what you do is governed by a set of rules or simply follows instructions, then an algorithm can actually replace you. Your task will be automated sooner rather than later. And we've heard this many times. This pandemic has actually accelerated the digital shift. So when I interview new graduates for a job, I focus more on the attitude of the person, the soft skills. The technical skills can be learned, and actually we have on-the-job training and virtual training for those. No, but the mindset will be more difficult to change. The soft skills that for me are important include those that were mentioned earlier. These are creativity, problem solving, and critical thinking skills, as well as communication skills. No? The latter one, Vic has expounded on that, on why it's important. Of course, interpersonal skills or the ability to work with others is also just as important. You cannot do everything on your own. You need to work with people to multiply yourself. Grit was somehow alluded to by Ned earlier when he described persevering in spite of the failures. So do not overlook the importance of soft skills. And third, and my final key takeaway is that we've gone through so many crises in the past, but Filipinos are quite resilient. And yet, this particular crisis is actually very, very different. It has massive implications, and it has exposed a lot of our vulnerabilities. Because of this pandemic, the need for digital literacy is highlighted. No? Has our education kept up with the requirements of businesses? I think this was also a question that Ned asked earlier. And a lot of what we do is actually, frankly speaking, not taught in school. But government should also look at this as an opportunity to catch up. Our budget for education is just 3.2% of GDP, which is actually the lowest or one of the lowest in ASEAN. And we should look at education as an investment for the future. If we do not equip our students with the right skills, they will not be productive members of society in the future. If they are not reaching their potential, then taxes will be lower, and businesses will not be able to find good talent. And just imagine what impact will that have on the economy when you have more people depending on social funds. So the private sector also have to do its job. The academe and the government will have to work together and take the responsibility to equip our people with the right skills. In PwC, for example, this month we will be launching our Digital Academy, which is just one of the initiatives we have in digitizing the network. The aim is to provide our people with the digital skills like data analytics to help them in their work and to help them personally in their own development and growth. We also launched the 5th PwC M&A Challenge, and I'd like to take this opportunity, and I've asked permission to do this, to actually invite our business students to join this competition. The aim is to supplement what you are learning in school about valuation, financial analysis, financial modeling, negotiations, and presentation by working on an actual or simulated M&A case. So we've actually, so today is supposed to be the deadline, but I've asked our team to extend the registration up until next week so that you can still catch up and register for this event. It's our small way of preparing our students in doing M&A transactions. Should you later on decide to work in advisory firms or in investment banks? No? So just to quickly recap, the key takeaways that I have this afternoon are as follows. Finance will continue to play an important role, but the opportunities here will be different. And therefore, we need to reinvent ourselves and be lifelong learners. Second, soft skills are very important, especially in the digital world. And third, this pandemic has profound implications and has accelerated the need to upskill. So that's it. Thank you. Back to you, Benny and Jeremy.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Jade. Before we proceed to our third panelist, just want to remind everyone that we do have a Q&A. We'll attend to your questions at the end of the hearing from our last panelist. I can see that we already have 2 questions, and we'll get back to you shortly. So last but not the least, we'd like to hear from our third panelist. Dada, please take it away.
Yes, in the interest of time, I will proceed by sharing my screen. So I will share you a testimony on the business applications. So the business applications industry provided me and our company certainty in the past Asian and global financial crisis. I was one of the pioneers in marketing and implementing the Platinum Financial System in 1990. I was blessed to have started my career 4 years after Cory Aquino's presidency. The Philippines was in full gear to embrace the products of globalization, wherein computerization was one of them. From 1990 to 2006, there were proliferations of business applications popularly known as Enterprise Resources Planning, or ERPs, which brought BPOs, business process outsourcing, in our country. In the year 2006, I started to architect NOAA business applications. So what is the purpose of business applications? Business applications automate processes by organizing master data, significantly eliminating redundant data handling, and automating the generation of reports and analytics in standard format or data on demand. On your screen, you can see a sample of a process flow for property sales. On the left are master data, in the middle are the processes, and on the right pertains to the reports or outputs. Here are the examples of other business applications spanning from forecasting, planning and budgeting, financial consolidation, treasury and loan management, real estate management, project management, procurement management, human resources management, banking, warehouse management, production, distribution, customer relation management, mobility or Internet of Things, analytics, reporting and dashboard, and data management. The making of business applications requires skills in finance, accounting, and business that will supplement and complement the works of IT professionals, solution architects, and engineers. The business application architects work with clients and users for systems specifications. Account managers market and present to prospective clients. Actually, this is the position that is most financially rewarding since it yields double the average 90K salary per month as presented by Mr. Sarsa. Analysts interpret the client requirements into technical specifications. System testers perform compliance validations between the specifications and the developed systems. Trainers conduct application training on how to configure, use, and administer the system. Project delivery specialists assist the client in the configuration and data migration. Project managers attend and monitor day-to-day project implementation activities. Customer relation managers, or CRM, log, assess, resolve, and escalate queries and concerns. As you can see in the pie chart presented by Mr. Sarsa, this is now play a big part where revenue and work are heavy. Business applications processors process the data based on pre-configured applications similar of that of payroll, billing, and collection system. So we had so many BPOs on those areas. COVID-19 drastically pushed the deployment of workflow management, document management system, and portals, which open up another opportunity in the realm of system integration and portal designs. Do you think that the portals are designed by artists? Actually, they are designed mostly by finance and accounting professionals. As business applications are positioned to empower businesses to thrive amid the pandemic, investing time and effort, learning the skills will be beneficial for young professionals and students. Now, business applications is now accepting applicants, interns, and apprentices who we can cheerfully and gracefully share the journey of business applications. On the presentation of Ned on tailing, may I share a guiding scripture as written in Romans 5 verse 3. Not only so, but we also share a glory in our sufferings, because we know that suffering produces perseverance, perseverance character, and character hope. After the pandemic, when we had our first webinar, we have very few numbers of attendees. We do not have any executive position in our attendees, but we continue to share to the audience our capability and what we have and what business applications can do for them. A week after, we received an email from one of our participants, and that participant introduced us to the C-level or senior management of their company. I would like to share with you that perseverance works wonders and magic. And let us remember, sometimes it's not the brightest who can deliver and rose to the rank, but it is the one who persevered and weathered the challenges. That company is now our business application users. So, back to you, Jeremy.
Okay, thank you, Dada.
Thank you very much, speakers and panelists. We now move forward to the part you've all been waiting for. I know it's late, but thank you for sticking around. The Q&A portion. Please indicate your questions in the chat box, and we'll try to answer all those questions. The speakers and the panelists are ready for your questions, so don't be shy. Please ask your questions now. Jeremy, maybe to start it off, what was the first question that came into your mind?
Oh, okay. Well, after listening to our seasoned speakers and our panelists, and as a millennial myself in my late 20s, I am naturally a driven and passionate learner with intense intellectual curiosity. But in the midst of this chaos, how could people avoid anxiety and perhaps find purpose from this internal turmoil?
Would you like to take that? Maybe let's start with Mr. Sarsa.
How do you? Well, two things. On the professional side, I always said, read, sharpen your saw. And on the personal side, get a hobby. Get a hobby. I mean, be among friends where you can enjoy your hobbies. I always bike with Boss Benny, and I'm not sure if that's a hobby. That's happiness for us. Every time we see each other on Sundays, we just do nothing but laugh, and we forget about the pandemic.
Ned?
Simple joys.
Yeah.
Would you like to add to that?
When the going gets really tough, my dear young friends, you have to keep the faith.
Yeah.
You have to pray. You have to keep on praying. That's how I could share with my young friends.
Yeah. Let's hear from one of the panelists. Third, your inputs?
As another millennial, Tama ba, Jeremy? um, I don't know. It's a very tough question. No? I think purpose comes from within, diba? So, and no one can tell you what your purpose is, diba? So a lot of soul searching. You do that. You use the time, whatever it is, no, what inspires you, no. So whether it's praying or just meditating or whatever, no, and think about why are you here? What are you supposed to do? Just have that time. It's actually a great time to do all that now. No? So I encourage the young, the students and the young people in our, I don't know, in attendance to do that. No? And there, man, maybe you'll find an answer, right? At the same time, do what Vic says, no. So always find that time to hang on to the joys, no, the simple joys, no. Don't lose that, because those are also inspiring moments, diba? So you'll never know when you're in the middle of laughing with, a couple of friends over a Zoom inuman. That's what we call it now, inuman, a Zoom inuman, and some interesting thing strikes you. So there. Thanks.
Jade, we'll go down the line here. Jade?
Yeah, maybe just to add, no, I think we're lucky as Filipinos to be in a society where we have extended family members. And so we always have that support that whenever we need, no? But then I've also read that the more you stay in bed, the longer you sleep, the more that you feel depressed. So I think maybe just as a practical advice, try to wake up early and think about what you need to do. Keep moving rather than stay in bed.
Okay. Dada, your thoughts?
Maybe work with Gen Zs. I think to be in an environment where you are stimulated passionately in terms of mind, and that helps a lot because that you do not see how time passes by, but you concentrate on coming up with something, creating something, and that helps a lot. To be in the environment that will stimulate your passion and will make you think on to be creative on your work. I think that helps a lot.
Very good. Thank you, speakers and panelists. Jeremy, there's questions in the chat box.
Yeah, so we also have some, we also have some questions. I think this one was posted while Vic was presenting earlier on, from an anonymous attendee in the Zoom. Kindly explain again on the communication why not to send anything on a Sunday and Monday for marketing emails.
I guess it's quite simple. When you're trying to market something and you're marketing it to someone who's on his family day, which is typically a Sunday, he's not going to pay attention to it. If you want to pitch a professional pitch to someone, do it on a Monday or a Friday. The other thing I mentioned is not actually Monday. What I said was early morning. You're not going to send a marketing pitch at 5 o'clock in the morning. It's just going to be ignored. You send it at office hours, 10 o'clock or 3 o'clock or anywhere in between, but not early morning where he might be in a bad mood and he will just throw your pitch away.
Yeah, I guess these are part of the soft skill items that people would just need to learn moving forward with the new norm. Another question, if I may, there's another question here in the Zoom Q&A box. What are the motivation for those students who are wanted to take CFA, but they are afraid of failure?
Yeah, maybe I can take that, Jeremy. I think the CFA program should be looked at as a refresher course. And, if you intend to really learn more about finance, you shouldn't be afraid of failing. I think you should just think about, it's probably another 30,000 that you'll spend to register. I'm actually not sure how much it costs now to take the exam, but that's the cost of taking it. But in the process, the learning that you get in the 6 months that you will review actually makes up a lot of that cost. You grow, you learn a lot, your technical skills get expanded. It also develops the passion for finance. So I would actually encourage even my team members to take the CFA exam, not so much to attain the title, but really just to review and learn more. I think you can approach it from that perspective, as Ned mentioned earlier, failing forward. No, if you fail, be comforted that what you lost is 30,000, but yeah, you'll get another opportunity to take again. But at the same time, you were able to learn, and the next time, you will master it. So I think that's how I will look at it. And certainly, if you become successful, you take the exam and pass it, the 3 exams, and get the designation, the CFA designation. And certainly there are, of course, monetary rewards. So hopefully the learning plus the monetary rewards at the end of it will be sufficient motivation for you to try.
Thank you, Jade. I think we have 2 or 3 more questions, Benny, but do you have a question of your own to our speakers and panelists?
No, go ahead, please. I think I saw one question addressed to NOAA, no, to the NOAA business systems applications.
Yeah, I think this one's for you. Does NOAA provide solutions for timekeeping and payroll and link this with the general ledger and FS applications?
Yes, certainly. It's part of two gallery, financials and human resource management system. So the human resource management system has around 12 modules in it, and timekeeping and 201 file are just 2 of them.
Okay. I guess because the one who posted the question is remain anonymous in the Zoom Q&A box, and they could probably just get in touch with NOAA through your website. Okay, and there's another question.
I think, sorry, Jeremy, if I can, that's an interesting segue, into systems and how it relates to the, finance or accounting function, and maybe that's something that, and also maybe to touch on what Jade mentioned, around digital and then upgrading of skill sets. There is also a lot of opportunity for finance people in IT. Because again, if we connect it to what Jade said around changing skill sets and everything becoming AI, I don't know how many years down the road or whatever, someone needs, to still program these things, right? And that will involve finance knowledge, business knowledge. Right, so that's also an interesting area of development for our young people. So to take the theoretical knowledge around finance and then apply that in how it relates to systems and technology. So there's also that opportunity. So not just raw, accounting or investments. There's also that piece, as an opportunity area.
Yeah.
I think third, there's 12 positions or 15 positions on that.
Oh, definitely, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Third and Dada. We have a question from one of our viewers in YouTube. It's anonymous again, but I'm trying to just rephrase the question. I'm not sure if this is what he or she meant. How can the youth contribute to the finance industry, like him or her? That's pretty much the question. Does anyone wanna give their inputs?
Yes, I may add, in a youth organization.
Yeah.
In a finance youth organization.
You know what? If you're in school, you have to keep on studying, and you have to train yourself to meet the new demands of the economy. That's how you will be able to contribute. You need to understand what's going on. You need to learn the new skills that will be required, right, in the future. That is how you will be able to contribute to the finance industry. And you are contributing already as a student, right? By fulfilling your role in preparing, right? So please do that.
Thank you, Ned. This one's this one should be a quick question. What is the duration of studying to take CFA examination? Jade?
Yeah, so normally the exam is actually given every 6 months now, but because of the pandemic, I think that has been deferred. So you have actually 6 months to study, and normally the suggested studying time is at least 2 hours a day within that 6 month period. But the trick that I used when I studied was actually to listen to audiobook rather than to read the book itself. No, so there were review materials that I have, and what I did was, since I was also working at that time and have very limited time to study, in traffic I would listen to the audiobook. And then every weekend I would just try the sample exams. So that's how I actually managed to pass those exams.
Okay. Thank you, Jade. Well, I'm just being mindful of time, though we still have a few questions. Those questions that we won't be able to address in this live session, we would be posting them in our Facebook page. So I'd like to go to our last question. Looking back on your journey in the finance function, do you have any regrets? And what is the most significant learning you can share with our finance professionals to be? Maybe we'll start off with Vic.
Oh, personally or professionally? I've I certainly have a lot of regrets. I guess my biggest regret was not being able to finish my MBA. I mean, I finished all the classes, excelled in them, but when it came time to finish my thesis, a crisis struck. So, I was told to report to the office, to do 14-hour work days. So I couldn't finish the MBA. And after the crisis, I couldn't pick it up. So that's why I in all my uh, teaching, in all my training, because I was always assigned as the trainer for in all the institutions I was in. I always insisted you take higher learning, meaning, of course, I didn't tell them that I was a failure in that respect. I just wanted to tell them, you learn from my mistake. So, you don't have enough time to learn it by yourself. So you learn from my mistake. I didn't finish it. You finish it for yourself. So
Okay.
to me, that's my biggest regret.
Thank you, Vic.
For I
Yeah, go ahead, Ned.
yes, yeah. As you know, I was an accidental finance executive. I started out as I failed as a fighter pilot, and I described that to you. But you know what? That failure opened doors for me. And by the end of my first tour as an IP, my commander at that time asked me what I wanted to do, and my reply to him was that I wanted to go back to school. So I studied. I went to National Computer Institute initially to study IT, and that opened the door to finance for me. I needed to go to grad school. I interned with a bank in New York. I did budget training with the U.S. Air Force, but then joined Ayala. It's been a very fruitful
Yeah.
and certainly fulfilling career for me. No regrets.
Can I 30 seconds? Sorry. I just want to insert this issue. The other regret, mostly on the personal side, I regret I didn't pick up PMA.
Oh,
What?
Yeah. I was about to go, papers done, everything. For some reason, I chickened out. Well, who knows? I could have been PNP chief or army forces, whatever.
but you would have
No,
been my
seriously, that's
upperclassman.
well, something I never shared with anyone. Sorry, I never discussed that with anyone. Even with my family now, they don't. Only a few of them know that I.
Now
Uh,
the whole world knows.
yeah,
Okay, thank you, Vic and Ned. I'll just go to the panelists as well, because this is a good question from Manabat Conchita. So again, just regrets and significant learning. Third, wanna go ahead?
Oh, I don't know. Okay, so I guess I live life with that mantra that I mentioned, diba? Which is no regrets, only learning. No, so there's always something to learn with every failure. No, but I guess the closest I can get to answer your question is that. So I've always been an IT person, I guess. No, so I built my first system when I was 11. I built it for my mom, for my mom's business. No? So it was so I made it myself. No, I just studied by myself. So I'm a developer, but I decided to take up finance, because at that time when when I was choosing, on which course to take, in university, a lot of people were telling me, ano ba yan, wag na yan, mag-finance ka na lang, di ba, or accounting, garantisado, something like that. So I ended up there. The good thing now is, I think, is that these fields are merging, di ba? So, and they have been for quite some time, no? So it's a very valuable thing, to be a finance person as well as an IT person. No? So, well, I don't know if I answered the question, but the regret, I guess, is what if I did not go to finance, and it continued with the IT course. So I don't know anymore, but now I'm still very happy because they're there. They're still there, and they're ever pervasive in the work that we do. Yep.
Thank you, Third. How about you, Jade?
Yeah, so maybe I can start by telling you the one thing that I do not regret. I do not regret working for a professional services firm, because every day is a learning opportunity. Every project is actually something different. Every interaction that we have with the team, the client, is truly an enriching opportunity. No? But if there's one thing that maybe I should have done, it would have been to ask for a foreign secondment. That would have enriched me even more by having that multicultural, flavor in my resume. But I was lucky enough to get a scholarship abroad. I wouldn't have been able to afford it if I wasn't able to get a scholarship, and that somehow made up for it. So at least that balance it off.
Okay. Thank you, Jade. Dada, any inputs?
More of a bucket list than a regret. We have lots of CRMs and knowledge-based companies, but we do not have publisher owning the IP, intellectual property, and bringing it globally. And that's my bucket list now, to really bring an IP globally and to know a business application. So more of a bucket list.
Okay. I was also going to ask you, Benny, but if you throw the question back at me, we're going to take another 30 minutes to talk about all my regrets.
Jeremy, your show, time to wrap up.
Yes. Okay, so I just want to remind everyone, we still have a raffle draw. But before that, let's go to our closing remarks. And to deliver the closing remarks, we'd like to invite Attorney Ebot Tan, FINEX past president. Attorney Ebot?
Can you see me now? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much, Benny and Jeremy. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, most especially you, our future finance leaders, who we are focusing this webinar on today. As we are all made to realize today, pandemics and crises are not new. They have been around many, many times before, and they have come and gone. Everyone affected by the pandemics and the other crises, including the Spanish flu, the 2 world wars, the Great Depression, the financial crisis, the OPEC oil crisis, and more, just had to persevere and overcome the difficulties and challenges presented by such events. They had to survive, and some even thrived. Our speakers even shared that they were able to turn their personal quote unquote failures into accomplishments and achievements. Today's speakers and panelists have endeavored to address the important issues raised by the COVID-19 pandemic and to provide some answers to the burning questions in your minds. They have likewise offered valuable advice on how best the situation should be handled and what you, our future finance leaders, should concentrate on in terms of the competencies and skill sets that you should zero in on to learn. They have furthermore provided their insights on how business enterprises and government could help address your particular fears and concerns. I'm certain that with your resilience, ingenuity, and fortitude, you will be able to not only survive this crisis, but you will be able to excel in these challenging times. Please take advantage of the opportunities that are presented. I would like to thank FINEX Liaison Director Benny Soliven, FINEX JFINEX Committee Chair Dada Del Carmen, our distinguished speakers Vic Sarza and Ned Goseco, our panelists Third Librea, Jade Rojas Divina Gracia and Dada Del Carmen, our moderators Benny Soliven and Jeremy Abanyo, and our FINEX Secretariat for organizing and producing this webinar, which should prove to be very informative and educational for all of you. Most of all, I would like to thank all of you for attending and actively participating in today's event. FINEX and its JFINEX committee is committed to continue providing more activities and webinars for your benefit in the future. And we look forward to seeing and hearing from all of you again soon. Maraming salamat po sa inyo lahat.
Thank you very much, Past President Ebot. So let's all keep our hopes up and let's continue to keep the faith. Now, it's raffle time. Maraming salamat, everyone. Thank you for viewing. I hope it was a very fruitful afternoon. Some people are still out there waiting for the raffle. Can I turn the floor or the screen over to Dada?
Yes. Okay, let me share my screen. All right. So this afternoon, courtesy of Nova Business Applications, we will be drawing winners 1,000 worth of cell phone load, 8 of that, and our grand winner will win a prize of a new Acer laptop, a brand new 4G RAM Intel i3 CPU, 14-inch high definition LCD. All right, so let us draw the first winner. So, and the winner is, our first winner is from Ateneo de Davao University, Wapan Ken Rose. Okay, FINEX Secretariat, kindly take a picture. We might forget who are the winners. Okay, so for the second winner, and the winner is from Cagayan State University Andrews Campus, Mary Jean Rose Rabelo. Congratulations for winning 1,000 worth of cell phone load. And the third winner. And the winner is City University of Pasay, Dennis Lustro. Congratulations. The fourth winner, and the winner is University of Caloocan City, Giselle Formentera. Congratulations, Giselle. And the fifth winner, all right, and the winner is Arian Joy Flores from University of is Caloocan Campus. Congratulations. So we have two more. The sixth winner and the winner is Angeli Taguinod, Cagayan State University, Andrews Campus. And our last winner for 1,000 worth of cell phone load. And the winner is University of Caloocan City, Annalisa Olido. Congratulations. Let me just validate if we have already 8 winners. Okay. All right. Do we have 8 winners? Yes, we do. And now at this point, we will be drawing the grand prize winner of Acer laptop 4G RAM Intel i3 CPU 14-inch HD LCD. So this is perfect for online learning or work from home scheme. So the winner is yes, University of Santo Tomas. And the grand prize winner is Mr. Nathaniel Benaventura. Congratulations. Thank you for participating in the JFINEX survey. And thank you for attending this webinar. So I'll turn you over to our moderators, Jeremy and Benny.
Thank you very much, Dada. Jeremy, any parting shots?
No. I think basically I'm just really happy with all the learnings that were given to us by our seasoned speakers. I guess the real message is don't lose hope. There's a very bright future ahead. It's not the end of the world, and all we need to do is keep on believing, keeping the faith.
Excellent. Our chair, any last words?
Thank you for joining this webinar. We are very privileged to have been blessed that we are able to share with you some wisdoms and some encouragement to move forward. As Ned had shared and did, let's us keep moving forward.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Chair, Dada. Thank you, Jeremy, for moderating. Thank you to our speakers, Mr. Vic Sarsa, Mr. Ned Coseco. Thank you to our panelists, thirdly, Brea, Jade Ross Divina Gracia, of course, Ms. Dada Del Carmen. Thank you to the Secretariat, led by Mike Finluan. Thank you also to our beloved President, Mr. Jeng Pascual. Thank you for staying with us for this afternoon. Thank you to everyone. Thank you to the FINEX Week Committee. And there are more webinars to come from JFINEX. Mabuhay ang JFINEX at maraming salamat po. Good night, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Bye. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye, bye-bye. Congratulations. Bye-bye.
Panel.